Hello, she's Trixie, I'm Sarah, and this is our Yarn World, the place where we come to share our joy in the yarn crafts and the joy it brings us and what we hope it brings to you.
Right.
And we're coming 2 weeks after the last episode aired, or the last time we filmed together.
Well,
that might be 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's been 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Because I did the half episode after that.
Oh, that's right. Vehicles broke down, and we got sick, and we're still coming off of being sick. And it always seems that when we're getting sick in the winter, it happens when the snow starts to melt, and everything that has been trapped under the snow is just
gets up in your face.
Allergies and just mold and gunk and stuff, and it's hit the air, and it's super windy. And so though the snow is pretty much gone now, we're dealing with high winds, a lot of allergens, and it's just been a crazy time. But we have things to share. We hope that where you are, you're healthy, your cars are behaving, and that everything's going well for you.
Yeah.
But we're just excited to be back. It's been too long.
Right.
Been waiting for this. So.
And we are at episode 13, so we're finally in the teens. So.
Yeah. I didn't even realize that. But yeah we're in episode 13. So if you want to get ready to have a good time with us, our videos are a little bit longer. We just plan on just chilling and fellowshipping with whoever is wanting to watch with us, and share with us their time. So we are drinking some hot cocoa.
And I have a new mug. My stepson and his wife went to Indiana, and they went to a Cracker Barrel, and they brought back a Papa Nut mug for my husband and a Nana mug for me. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's kind of perfect. His is green and mine was red, and it was just, when my husband saw them, he's like, those are perfect. That's us. Yep. So.
Yeah, I've been doing my best to keep the coffee pot, like my heating water source for a lot of my hot drinks off, because I've been trying to slow down how much I've been drinking, and sugar wise.
Oh.
And because I take in a lot of my sugar with my coffees because due to the creamer or the hot cocoa that I drink. But just turned it on again today, and it's been just nice.
Well, and it soothes your throat so good. It's a very good thing for when you have asthma or allergies, to have something to soothe your throat and your bronchial tubes. Mm-hmm. Your throat can get dry, and it can get irritated, and the warmth can really help with that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. With all the sickness that's been going on, it really shows in our family with air and breathing complications. Allergens can block a lot of breathing, and a lot of people can just have a runny nose, itchy eyes, stuff like that. But with us, we have a lot of asthma in the family, and my kids are starting to show some signs that possibly could be early signs of it. And not speaking into that by no means, but if it's there, we want to be able to correct it and be able to also know what we're dealing with.
And deal with it right away so that it's not getting worse.
Yeah. So, my son had woken up, and you've met him before, he, a little 1-year-old, and he just couldn't breathe. And it was terrifying. Nothing major. He still had color in him, but he was very pale. He couldn't get out his voice.
Yeah. And
you could just tell that there was a hesitation. He started to wheeze. And luckily, albuterol is a thing, and it just opens everything up, so we're good. But enough of that. I want to talk about something nice. My mom has been, again, this blanket crazed making machine, and she has another one done.
Well,
this series of blankets where she just has, she has this checklist of what she wants to accomplish this year, and all of them were blankets, and she hasn't started any of them yet, but she's gotten 6 blankets done still. So, compromise.
I wanted to get them done by the end of March, and I did. So,
that's a goalkeeper, so I guess I'm wrong.
I finished last night with all the rows of this pastel scrappy, and then this morning I weaved in the ends before I came over.
Nice.
And it's a very Easter looking blanket. I started out chevron, I tore that out and just did a scrappy, and I'm happy I did.
I think it would have looked nice with a chevron, but there's something about this just layered effect that it really works.
But we've got pinks and mints and yellows and purples and peaches and blues. So, and it's just a beautiful combination that goes all the way through.
It even has an ombre in the middle.
Yeah.
And that and it's kind of muddled in the when it's being recorded, but in real life it has almost all the colors in this ombre.
Right.
And you paired all the colors with a solid white, right?
Yes.
Which is what's causing this to have this very, very consistent shade.
Yes.
I mean,
and all the way back down to pink again.
It's really, really cool.
Yes,
it's really cool. It's so soft toned. It's very
I
quiet.
Kept everything with white, and the
You're alright.
The 2 variegateds, it was one was yellow, green, and white, and the other ones had the purple, pinks, and the purples, the pinks, and it must have had green in it also.
Yeah.
And a little bit of white. Mm-hmm. And so I just put them all together in the middle, and
it really, really turned out
and it just
nice.
kind of made it flow. So I'm really happy with it. But okay. So my stepson and his wife were looking to foster this little girl, and the court system deemed a different decision. And the whole thing is that if COVID hadn't happened and slowed down the court systems, they would have already had her, and we would already be enjoying her. But because it slowed everything down, the great aunt that has her right now decided that she still wanted to be guardian, and the courts went along with it. Now, guardian just means that you can let them go to anybody's house as long as you check on them within 90 days. It doesn't matter that she's there for 89 days and you haven't checked on her, as long as you check on her within those 90 days. And my stepson and his wife are worried that she's going to allow this little girl to go excuse me, go to her grandparents' house, which then her parents would be able to see her and possibly do
some of their unhealthy habits around her.
Could be an overdose situation, which she'll be taken away from them again. And she's only 3 years old, and she's been in the court system for 2 years, over 2 years now. So it doesn't make any sense to us, but that's where we're at. Sorry about all this my asthma is kicked up. So go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's been frustrating. The court systems definitely want there to be the likelihood that that any child can stay in their, their biological homes. They want it to work. They want to see it work, and the parents are working to better themselves. The problem is that addiction has its hold, and it's hard to have grace for addiction when you're dealing with someone else's life. And it's just been a very hard road. We're just hoping that God, you know what, I should rephrase that. We know that God is going to be with her no matter where she is. And if my brother and his wife weren't the answer, that maybe this family would still work out, that everything would actually end up going to plan, and maybe the court system being detained meant that they are going to fix a broken family, and it might have a good outcome. I pray for that, and that it has just left my brother and his wife with already being prepared for other kids that might actually need them a little bit more. But I pray that if that is not true and that this little girl still needs help, my brother and his wife are on the top of the list. They're prepared.
Yeah.
So we do have that to.
And the caseworkers know this, and they also know that the room is ready for her, or anybody else that comes along.
Yeah. So it's just, it breaks our heart, but at the same time, I have to believe that God knows best and that He has a plan. COVID just sometimes complicates our hearts when we hunger to try to help people, and it feels like we're taking steps backwards than forwards.
Yeah.
And it's just hard to understand what God has in store, but I do believe that God knows best, and we're going to see that this little girl is going to be okay.
Yeah.
I pray for the protection. I ask that everything would be in God's plan, God's will, God's favor, and that if anything is out of line, she would be seen.
Yeah.
That everything would be okay. Everything is going to be okay.
Yes.
This blanket is still hers for the taking if she's coming back into our life, but if she ends up never seeing it, we know that we know that it's going to go to a good home. Yeah. Because it's going to go to a child that we're ready for. We're excited to have a part of our family, no matter what. So on a different note, you know that I've been talking to you guys about fulfilling a sock order, and this has been a long time in the coming. It was kind of actually funny that in the last episode I was talking about how to deal with orders that are fulfilled in such a way where they get part of the product without having been paid yet, and how it can, but how in some ways you can use that as leverage, that if they want to fulfill the order, they have to actually get everything to you up front on their end. You know, I was talking to you guys about it. I was explaining how I wanted to, go about this, and that literal Sunday she came up and said, here's your payment in full. I understand that it is taking way too long, and I'm very sorry about that. And I understand that you haven't started on the other ones due to that. Take your time. I'm gonna be here when they're done. Yeah. And I was just kind of standing there being like, it just seems funny that when I bring it up in the video, it just obviously seemed to just fall into place. But I know now that, next time if I do an order like this, I'm not seeing myself doing it because I don't want to make to order. I want to have made stuff to have people buy. Right. If I were to do this.
Already have it done so that it can just be sold.
Yes. I'm not exactly in the mood for anything where I'm getting asked to make, because I don't have the time to manage that. you know, in the future, if I actually do get my seamstress degree, that would be my job. I'd be being ordered to make something,
Right.
to custom size or custom ordered, whatever. But that's going to be a little bit different because I'll have older kids with a different time managing system.
Right.
Right now I don't have that time, so making things and just selling them afterward, knowing that I've already had the time available to do that
And not rushed.
and not rushed is so much easier on me. Having two kids under the age of 2, even though they're older than that now, them being that close together in age it's been a journey. But in saying that, when she told me that, I instantly got on board. I got it done. I got these the second pair of an order of 3 done. So now I have 2 done. I'm working on the third pair.
2/3
Yes. And these
are beautiful.
are the second pair. They are not blocked yet. I used Red Heart yarn, worsted weight. I just used like a color gray, and then there was this ombre that I chose that really worked out well, kind of striping everything. I just used a German short row heel to be able to make the heel and the tip and the cuff match while still keeping this consistency. When it came to the bottom of the foot, I just full on stockinetted straight knit on the bottom. The reason, I'm sure you can see that I did knit purl, knit purl, knit purl continuously. I didn't stop after the rib because she wants these to be almost like stockings. She wants them to stay on her foot. She doesn't want them to move. So I ribbed it so that as it expanded, it would still kind of have that natural elasticity that would tighten to her. And she wanted them as long to reach just underneath her knees. And these do. They do stretch. I mean, these, it might not come to scale on the on the camera, but they're pretty long.
Be a good sock boot, or a boot sock.
Good boot sock. So these pair are just about to get ready to be blocked, and then we have that done. And I am working on the third pair. With this yarn, it is not, these last 2 pairs of yarn I've used Red Heart yarn, worsted weight yarn. I do believe that this yarn is still medium weight. It is worsted weight, but it's still 100% acrylic. It's 100% acrylic, but it's premium acrylic from Lion brand. It is the Heartland yarn, and it has a very rich color and texture. It's very shiny yarn, and it's silky. You know, for acrylic, this is very, very soft yarn.
Right.
And if you can hold that, I am, in this way, I am actually doing a blue and a purple together. I will get the names for that in just a second. I've only got this much done, but here's the blue right here leading into the purple. It's kind of hard to make it not be so. It really blends with this light, but it's pretty.
It's very pretty.
In real time, this is a very stark contrast. Again,
They're very jewel tone.
I'm not sure if this is gonna show up on camera. Kind of. It's a shimmery yarn with jewel tone. You can tell that there's some sort of underlining to how they must have dyed the strands. It almost reminds me that this yarn, each strand that was wrapped was all dyed separately before it was twisted together.
Right.
And the only reason why I say that is because the dye density changes with the strands. It doesn't necessarily, it just, I don't know.
It looks like a light one with a dark one.
It does. It almost
It's
seems
a
like
twist.
it's almost like a two-toned
Yeah.
coloring wound together.
Yeah.
Same shade of blue, but it's like a lighter version of that color and a darker
one.
And that's how they have this yarn, and it just shimmers. It
And
causes
it is so pretty.
And again, it's you're kind of seeing this better from the distance, but this blue is very, very royal, whereas this, and the purple is royal, but it's almost like a dark plum, and she wanted that, and it's silky. I'm doing the same pattern as this sock, where it's going to be long and it's going to be tapered. But so I'm using the same pattern that I did on that one on this one. So it's going to be the same length and style. It's going to turn out the same, it's just the different yarn. But due to the material and just a slight difference of the acrylic, I really think that these are going to be more thin, and despite the weight being the same, I honestly think these are going to be a lot more, I don't know, like indoor socks, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
Like almost like delicate. Delicate despite their the thickness.
Right.
It just feels like a delicacy. This
purple is called Hot Springs.
And I do have the blue name here in just a second. I will go grab it. And then I have one more thing to mention on the socks that I forgot to mention when I was showing them off to you. Pardon me.
She's finding the ball of...
The blue is called Olympic. So the blue is Olympic. Okay, you can see this better like this.
Yeah.
This is how the blue looks in richness. And then the purple and its richness.
Hot Springs.
The purple's having a hard time showing. Which I don't know why. It almost is like being saturated by the light. It almost looks blue, but it's not. It's really rich purple. But back to the sock real quick. So, despite how I was one knit, one purl ribbing it, I had this feeling that, I don't know, but as I've been doing socks, I've noticed that with a lot of patterns, with a yarn that I've been using, it has this tendency of being baggy at the ankle. It's not tight at the ankle. And I'm someone who likes that if my socks are going to be tight against me, it needs to stay there. I don't want any sort of chunkiness. And so I actually, because she said she wanted these to stay on her. I wanted to accommodate that. And if you can see this, I did a decrease right here. Right there. And then after 5 rows, I decreased again. So I decreased 4 times over a span of like 20 rows.
Well, that's good though.
And that caused a tapering. So I know this is going to be very hard to see. So it's just, after I did so many rows, I'm just trying to make sure I'm pointing to it. You'll see that there are ribs that V off and then all of a sudden become one. Right there. And there's a couple of them that I did. And I kept to that number the rest of the foot. So for the rest of the shape of the heel and the foot, they kept to that number. And it caused it to accommodate for the leg size and the calf size, and then kind of grow just enough slimmer that it would stick to the ankle, be more shapely for the foot, and it would stay there. And I really think that it's going to accommodate for what she desired.
Right, but for what you needed it to do also. Yeah,
so I really think that that's going to work. I'm not sure if I'm going to apply that to these just because this is such a thinner yarn and I think it's going to just do it on its own, but I still might.
Yeah.
Still going to determine it when we get there.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I don't know what else you want to talk about today.
I wanted to let you know that the man in California is he's actually my uncle in California. He went through the surgery last week, and they had to crack his chest and repair some stuff inside. And I believe he's finally home, but my aunt just kept referring back to the blanket that I had made him and saying that he would take naps with it in the afternoon as he was waiting for the surgery to be scheduled. And his surgery came up very quickly. The Friday before the Wednesday of his surgery, the Friday before, they had called him and said, it's going to happen next week. You need to get all your testing done because you've got to have COVID tests and all that before you can go into surgery. And you need to be here like 5 o'clock in the morning. His surgery was scheduled at 7 California time. So that means 10 o'clock our time here in Michigan. And it would take 4 to 7 hours. And my aunt was not allowed to be with him.
During his stay at the hospital at
Well,
all.
At all.
During the
had
surgery.
He had to get himself ready prior to the surgery.
That's just a lot.
He got to borrow somebody's phone as he was being wheeled into surgery to call her and say that he was being wheeled in. Because I was here in Michigan, did not understand that he was doing this alone and that she was not with him.
In the hospital.
I thought that she could visit him like my husband was able to visit me when I had my surgery. He was the only one who could visit me, but he was able to. Out there, it must be a different system.
Yeah, the rules out in California are a little different when it comes to COVID regulations.
So, she went home, and the hospital was like over an hour away. So she went home and waited for the surgeon's call, the nurse's calling. She talked to him on the phone, but he was weak and didn't understand everything. My uncle will be 80 next month, and he just went through this, and he doesn't understand medical jargon. She used to be a nurse for years, and so she was able to talk to the doctors, surgeons, nurses.
Communicate in that language.
I'm so sorry. And, but, yeah, so he had to do this completely alone. And when I asked if he got his bear to hold up against him when he coughed or when he was
needing that extra
pressure. to get up off a sitting or a laying down position, she said she would have to ask him, and that's when I figured out that she must not be with him.
Yeah.
But when she was able to ask, he told her yes, that he did have his bear and it was helping him. But it's been a long road, and so he finally had the surgery. He's out. I think he's home now, and now he just has to heal, and we're just praying it through. And Lord, we're so grateful. And I just wanted to update you on that.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not sounding really good right now, it's just asthma kicking my butt, my throat.
Yeah. Sometimes the kindest gestures can mean go the longest way. I found that sometimes just making the effort to remember and or share in someone's journey, even if it's in a small way, can really help. You know, Mom didn't have to make a blanket, but in making it, it showed that she cared. You know, she couldn't be there, but she was able to make something of her time to show that if she was there, she would have spent time with him.
Yeah.
Sometimes homemade gifts and even store-bought gifts really do have a little bit more, have more to say than we give them credit for. Sometimes we forget that taking the extra time to write a text, call someone,
send a
card can really mean the world in the face of so much adversity.
Yeah.
Community, when God made us, He was making us for a relationship, and it was His most prized possession was to have willing, participating relationship.
Yes.
It's part of the reason that a lot of people want to talk about how willfulness is kind of a sin, but in reality, God gave us will before sin was in this world. It was not a sin, but we were allowed to choose with that will what we wanted to do.
Yeah, He gave us free will on purpose.
And He wanted us to willingly want to be with Him.
Yes.
And sin kind of corrupted that.
Yeah.
Luckily, with His love, we were able to overcome some of those obstacles, but we have to still choose every single day to put in the effort. And there are ways that we can show God's love in other people's lives by making the extra effort, remembering something about them that they're like, taking the extra minute to be like, I was thinking about you today.
Yeah.
Hey, I didn't notice that. Yeah, I noticed that you were gone today. I just wanted to call you. If you're busy, I understand, but I just wanted to hear your voice for a minute, see how you're doing. There are just some things that we will eventually take for granted. And if we can just make the extra effort, it can really go a long way. Some of the simplest actions can be the most telling of emotions.
And just being with another person, whether it's through a text or a phone call, can just help them get through that situation a lot stronger than when they started out. And that's all I could do. I could text. I could answer the phone when she needed me to answer the phone. And
but just even being there in that way.
Yes.
There are ways that we can reach. I mean, this is kind of is in the same ballpark, but I was just doing a study on Psalms 23. And in the last one of the last verses when it talks about, and you prepare a table in the midst of my enemies. And the aspect of what David was meaning in that is that he was just coming through the valley of shadow of death. He was coming through a long line of oppression. He had people chasing him. And yet, here's God, already prepared.
Yeah.
Opening the door, being like, I have everything you need, so take part in what you need. They have not done what you have and building this and doing this and building this relationship. And it's one of those things that when you see God's active preparedness in your life, the things that were prepared for the moment that you needed it, and realizing that sometimes that took years in the preparing, and you didn't even notice it until that moment. There are things that we can do to just be like, oh, her favorite color is blue, I should remember that.
Right.
Might not be significant then, but just those simple things. His middle name is Robert.
Right.
Okay. Like, if you take the time to actually show people that you care enough to know about the insignificant things, they become significant to us.
Even the little details make sense then.
Well, it's one of those things where it's what we sometimes view as insignificant isn't insignificant when it comes to someone else and who they are.
Right.
if it means something to them, and the fact that it's something that they like, it means something to them.
Right, right.
And just because it's not for us doesn't mean it's not for them. If you take time to share in there and what they like my husband has this game on his phone that he loves. He has separate apps to be able to allow for a group chat amongst the people that play the game with him, and just all these different things. And I don't play in that sort of thing, but I've been taking extra time recently to just know what he does with his spare time in that way, because I want to share in what he cares about.
Yeah.
And what interests him. And though it might not exactly be my thing, because it interests him, it's important to me.
Right.
It's that sort of it's that extended I'm looking for a word, consideration, to actually showing someone that what they value, you value.
Right.
Because you care about them.
Right. And in the same vein, my scripture that I've picked out is, so Jesus answered and said to them, have faith in God. And that's found in Mark 11:22. If you have faith in God, as Jesus asked us to, then you're going to find those little things about other people, and you're going to help them along their road by making their walk meaningful with the things that mean stuff to them.
Being faithful to God, to be obedient to God,
is everything.
God literally said to love the Lord with all your heart, soul, and strength and body, and to love your neighbor as yourself is the most important things that you could ever do. And that means caring for them and valuing even the most insignificant thing about them, and treating them like they're meant to be treated. Because sometimes when when people are not acting like they could, it's because no one has ever treated them like they could.
Hurting people hurt people. And if we can stop the hurt, we can show love to other people. It puts that salve on there that will heal that soul.
I mean, we're not the soul healers, but
God is.
But God has helped us. We can show some compassion. God's the one who loved them first.
Yeah.
I don't get to choose who I love. And not in a negative way. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying I don't look at people as anything less than something that God has taken time to make and treasure if they are on this earth. And if He has made enough time to put air and breath in me and life in them, regardless of whether they're using it in a way that I would, it's not my choice how they live their life, but it is my choice in how I treat them.
Right, and love is always going to be the answer.
I just ask that if you are dealing with anything, if you're going through something and you're dealing with people around you that don't treat you the way that you know they're toxic, it's toxic. We're not asking for you to stay in a toxic scenario because you're trying to be the solve for somebody. The reality is God also talks about cutting things out of your life and having boundaries, because there are things as having boundaries. There are such things as, they talk about, if the eye is going to make you sin, pluck it away. If this hand is not going to do anything good for you, you can let it go.
Right.
It's not taking that literally as much as it's the example of
we are the body.
If this isn't good in your life,
right,
take courage to let it go. A lot of people think, family is family is family is family. And reality is that family is not blood. It's who chooses to stay.
Right.
And you've got to have a good relationship with yourself to know what is okay to be in you and whether you have the strength to love people. But you can only love people if you know how to love yourself. And if you're around people that are not loving you, and so therefore it's hard to love yourself, you can't give what you don't have.
Right.
Please understand that. You know, I can't make things if I don't have the stuff to make it.
Right.
I can't just have yarn and not have the tools. If I people giving me the yarn and be like, well, now you have the material.
Right.
Don't have the tools.
Right.
Well, you got the tools. Well, why don't you do anything? I don't have the yarn. If you don't have one without the other, there's no way of being able to do it. But it also takes practice to get good at it.
Yeah. Yep.
It's just one of those things where it's just like it's not easy sometimes to love people.
Right.
But we have God to teach us how to, and we're able to pull on Him.
Yeah.
It's His strength that we're supposed to use. And if you're needing help loving yourself,
ask Him to help you.
Ask Him what He sees when He sees you.
Yeah.
Because He thought that you were worth dying for.
He thought you were worth making in the first place.
Yep.
So, you are worth it. And if nobody's told you that, then we have today.
Something I like to tell my kids is, you are smart, you're beautiful or handsome, and you're enough.
Yep.
I don't ever want them to think that they have to earn something.
Right.
To be loved.
Right. That's true. That is true.
I want them to be the best that they can be. But I also don't want them to think that they have to earn love when it's something that I'm going to give them freely.
Well, we're supposed to be giving it freely. Yeah.
So, we've been rambling. It's been kind of a crazy time. We're trying to just
get back into the rhythm of this.
Get back into the rhythm. We weren't able to do a lot of yarn talking today just because, like I said, this last 3 weeks, we've been stuck at home. No vehicles, been dealing with being ill. Haven't been able to really haul or do anything too crazy with getting books from thrift stores or finding good yarn sales. But we have been getting some stuff done, and some of the things that we've gotten done has been very impactful, obviously, in regards to our uncle and stuff. We just ask that if this has meant anything to you, if our time with you has meant as much to you as it has to us, please write a note, comment.
Yeah.
We'd like to hear from you if there's anything that you would like to ask us in regards to our projects, what we do, and you want a little bit more of a direct, a little bit more lengthy of a conversation. We have an email in our bio.
Yep.
And we're willing to, pray, and if you have prayer requests, anything like that, we're here for you. We'd love to hear from you.
Yes.
And on that note, we ask that you stay blessed, and that you are doing what you have to do, using your talents to not only bless yourself, but bless others.
Yes.
And as we do, stitch your way
to mental health.